So let's start then, and it is on that theme of the flooding in KwaZulu-Natal that we begin. The Premier of that province, Sihle Zikalala, says he estimates that the province will need 1.9 billion rand for disaster relief efforts. He's just given an update on the province's devastating floods. Zikalala says 435 people have lost their lives, while 54 are still missing.
As of today, 17,438 households have been affected by the disaster, wherein 121,687 people were affected. Sadly, 435 people lost their lives, and to date, 54 are still reported missing.
Well, for more on that, then, I'm joined by eNCA's Lindo Kuhle, who has an update for us. And Lindo, what is the update? Let's start with the basics that people need and that we've consistently been highlighting have been affected by the flooding in areas of KwaZulu-Natal: water and electricity.
That's right, Tulas. A comprehensive update in terms of some of the work that is ongoing to ensure that there is some form of recovery for the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Premier Sihle Zikalala earlier on just updating the province as well as the media in terms of some of those interventions. But one of the things that he has said was that a provincial state of disaster would not have been sufficient to actually tackle some of the devastation that was caused by the floods. He speaks about the fact that the national state of disaster was fitting, and he fits into it in the conversation 1.9 billion that would be needed to actually cover the cost of all of this work that needs to be ongoing. We do know that government had set aside about 1 billion. Now we do understand that 1.9 from the Premier, as they continue to assess some of the areas that have been damaged by the floods, is the figure that they are looking at in terms of tallying up what is needed. But yes, you are right. There are immediate needs that residents would have been wanting to have, because we do know that a lot of people have been displaced, but those that have not been displaced from their homes are without electricity and are without water in many parts of KwaZulu-Natal. So the Premier does speak to us about that, saying that they are trying to put or install temporary measures in terms of ensuring that water and electricity gets to the people while they find a long-lasting solution. But in that, we did ask in terms of the timelines as to when exactly should people expect these temporary measures to kick in, and when will they be out of the dark and with their taps, when will they stop being dry? And the Premier essentially told us that that will vary from different places because of the work that is ongoing, because of the fact that other places are inaccessible, because of the fact that there is more damage on other areas than there would be on other areas. So that work, as it continues, as temporary measures are being looked at, the Premier does say that it will take time, but they are not sure in terms of timelines because it will vary from each places and the damage that has been caused. But take a listen to the Premier just explaining to us more on the details of when people will be getting electricity as well as water.
With regard to the timelines on water and electricity, I think the problem is that it depends, but the municipality can provide more information on a specific area. For instance, you would have heard the Deputy Mayor reporting that for Utongati, it might take about 6 months to rebuild that facility. Then it will depend on an area by area and the extent of damage that happened. That is the same with regard to electricity. But we're hoping that electricity will not take that long like in other areas that are heavily affected.
And Lindo, one of the immediate tasks has to do with the burials that need to be undertaken. We are told 435 people are confirmed to have died, and a number of others still missing. What is the Premier telling us about the process of releasing funds that are meant to support families in this time as they arrange those burials?
Well, Tulas, we do know that there have been very generous donations when it comes to the Motsepe Foundation, as well as AFBOP, we are told, has contributed about 3 million to help in terms of the burials of those that had lost their lives. Fortunately, what came out of this particular briefing was the fact that the numbers have not changed in terms of the number of people that had passed away. The figure still stands at 435 as updated by the police minister 2 days ago. But I can tell you that those families that are bereaved at this moment, as we've been witnessing many of these burials, some even excruciating in terms of looking at a picture of someone burying more than 4 or 5 family members. Those are some of the scenes that had been coming out. But according to some of the funeral parlors in the province, the process of actually allowing or releasing these funds to the families is moving at a snail pace. They're saying that while bodies have passed away in conditions where they are in water, the bodies are simply decomposing and are not in a good state, and that is why they would have wanted to finish this process in a matter of 1, 2 to 3 days in terms of helping families to bury their loved ones. But we have been updated by the Premier that there is a task team that is in charge of that is looking at ensuring that that money is speedily released. But according to funeral parlors, if there are anything to go by, the association forum that spoke to us a couple of days ago, they told us that ahead of this weekend, not even 50 families out of these 400 plus families would be able to bury their loved ones, because a majority of those that perished during the floods were not, with policies, and they needed this money to actually institute what is needed in terms of those funerals. So according to the Premier, there is a task team that is working on that, but according to the association's forum of funeral parlors, they are telling us that that is moving at a stagnant pace. But the Premier does say that government is doing all it can to ensure that this process of actually finding closure for these families and bringing dignity to those that lost their lives is in fact speedily pushed. And they are saying that they're working on that because one of the updates that the Premier said he has received was from the MEC of Health in the province to say that post-mortems in terms of the government side, they have been able to push that, and at this stage only one person has not been done a post-mortem, and that is obviously ongoing. But they are speaking about the fact that they are trying to respond to the demand, which is to speed up this process. But unfortunately, some funeral parlors are saying it's not enough. But take a listen to Premier Sihle Zikalala just trying to explain around some of those issues and what government has been able to achieve thus far.
With regard to the slow progress on funeral parlors, I think we can refer that issue to the issue of we have established the committee that deals with funerals. And in case where there are delays, we would want to expedite that. But as of this morning, when I spoke to the MEC for Health, checking whether there are outstanding post-mortems, she was clear that there was only one body. So we are doing all we can at that level to clear and move to the funerals where people are buried. If the assistance is taking long, we will implore the committee to work and ensure that it is speeding the process.
KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala ending that reporting there by eNCA's Lindo Xulu out in KwaZulu-Natal.